Ground control to Paul Smith.
The engines are on, mate.
The engines are up. You're hired. You're
Yep.
coffeed in. Good man. So, new buildings, ventilation rates. Well, new time and place, I guess, is not the thing. It's more about the occupants than anything else, as always, with what we do. But what do you reckon's what's going to happen? You know? Are we just going to be in a place where we've got to increase the cooling, or are we going to be thinking about changing these buildings to get more fresh air through them, or outside air? You know, what do you reckon, mate?
I think, I mean, obviously there'll be a bigger focus on sustainability.
Sustainability,
generally, because net zero carbon is a feature for a lot of organisations, and so driving towards that, it's got to be, you know, more sustainable buildings. You know, you talk about recovery is definitely, you know, a feature. We don't do a great, in the past, haven't done a great deal of that in Australia, in compared to, say, you know, a European environment. And mainly because our energy, you know, traditionally has been quite cheap in comparison, but there's a different driver here now. So, you know, there's lots of different techniques that you could look at. We spoke earlier about components such as, you know, natural ventilation, or, you know, increased economy cycles, or even maybe the way that a building is built so that it absorbs or embodies more energy that can be imparted to it, you know, when at times of low occupancy or out of working hours and things like that. So, you know, there's lots of different methods of doing that, and I think we'll start to focus on those more in the future. You know, in the near future.
With the net zero bit, I can see how it would work quite well, or should work well, with new development, if you follow me, because it's the older stock, isn't it? And if you say a building was built in 2000 and you're aiming at net zero 2030, for example, you wouldn't drop a building.
The building that was built in 2000, though, they could have, you know, a reasonably good stab at it, because, you know, it was a bit of a focus then. You know, Green Star was around then, and people were thinking about these things, so it might have a better stab at it.
So you're looking at the buildings before then, so sort of 80s.
80s, maybe in 90s they might struggle a little more, but then they'd be getting into periods where they're looking at probably total refurbishment anyway, and some of that might be compliance driven and whatever. Integrating things like natural ventilation, as we spoke about, a key topic, would be harder in those sort of buildings, I think, especially at commercial office buildings.
Why is that then? I mean, one of the things is just the fabric of the building and making it work, I guess, but
fabric of the building, making it work, openings in the building, noise, you know, is a feature. If you were looking at the sort of projects that and buildings that would be using natural ventilation these days, other than warehouse, obviously, and you know, workshop environments, it would be schools and education, and they use some quite sophisticated automated systems that have natural ventilation at the best times that they can, and then contribute and top that up with mechanical cooling and heating when the conditions outside aren't so conducive to it. So and that seems to be quite successful. I'd love to really analyse one of those buildings, the operation of one of those buildings. It would be really interesting to see the outcome of those enterprises.
And I would think that they're
trying
fairly
to
low
integrate
rise.
those in a commercial space, that's tough. That's tougher. But commercial office spaces do have economy cycles, and there's a lot of other benefits with economy cycles that you can use, like pre-cooling techniques. You know, using the lower temperatures of nighttime to pre-cool a building.
Purge.
exactly. Yeah, that's the term I was looking for. Using the building fabric as, you know, an energy store, all of those sort of things that we were talking about, you know, 10 years ago, because they were really focused on green style, would become apparent again, I think. You know, we often, you know, we see like newer buildings are using things like chilled beams, and you know, chilled beams are efficient in their own right, and they do move towards higher air quality levels because it's more outside air involved with driving those systems. And it's outside air that you need anyway because of occupancy. So, you know, there's a balance there that is conducive to.
Have you ever known? Well, I don't think it'd work. It wouldn't work. I'm talking dribble. You couldn't put a chill beam in the floor because I read a thing recently about displacement vent is probably the best way of removing odors out of. It was a SIBSI thing, and it was saying you do your plume out the floor that sits around the occupant, and then you remove it out up at the high level. You extract, which basically pulls the, you know, thinking around COVID and things, but it
not
pulls
silly at
the,
all, not silly at all, you know.
Yeah, so it's new ways of designing or older ways of designing again, doing it in the newer buildings.
That you know, that was very popular in Europe, particularly Scandinavia. You know, displacement systems are, if I'm honest, if you want to float an engineer's boat, a mechanical engineer's boat, it's going to be those types of systems because they do offer high-end quality air environments and highly efficient. Very interesting how they operate and work, and it uses a lot of natural buoyancy techniques, you know, in terms of heat to operate well, and you know, they're very comfortable spaces. The problem is trying to give up the floor space or maintain the levels that are required to introduce the air at the levels that you want them, which is the occupied zone. So that's tough. So
the floor ceilings are much bigger, are they? And then because you've got to go on the floor.
Not necessarily. It's almost like reverse though. So when you're sort of in an existing building, you know, to build something like an underfloor plenum is and it needs to be, you know, at least 300 mil deep. You know, anything less than that, and you probably start to struggle to deliver it in that way. Then you've got, you know, levels of the outside, existing levels to contend with. Inside the building, it's almost like reversing the ceiling. You know, you've got very little ceiling, and obviously, you know, you need some ceiling zone because, you know, your void down is in the floor. So that all needs to marry up, you know, with all the other areas. So construction-wise, it could be quite complicated, and that's often why I think it doesn't go very far
in the existing stock.
And chilled beam is a very passive system as well, so, you know, and definitely an easier system to implement, if not quite as, you know, in my opinion, not quite as good a system. So it's lots of ways of skinning the cat, definitely, but ultimately you either lose net lettable floor space, or, you know, you have a difficult construction problem to overcome.
But it feels like we're going to have to try and get more air into buildings just off the back of everybody's requirements now. And how do we do that?
Yeah, and
opening a window even.
Exactly, reap the benefits and make the recovery. I didn't tell anybody to stop calling me, but there you go.
It must be
it was only a client.
Is it the space station?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Right, we'll let you get on with it.
We're trying to talk to you.
We'll let you get on with it, Captain Smith. Enjoy the last couple of days up there, and we'll speak to you very soon.
No problem, Commodore Craig. No problem.
I'm down on Earth somewhere. Don't know where.
Yeah, at least you're down to earth, mate.
Yeah. See you, mate.
See you around. Cheers.